Okay, this is a video on how to replace your ignition lock cylinder. This happens a lot of times when you turn your key on and all you get is a flashing security light and nothing happens to the car. What's happening is that there's a wire inside this ignition lock cylinder which is broken off. I'm sure of it. So what you do is, first thing, you turn the key on, you turn the wheel sideways, because behind here there's two torques. There's one right here and one right here on the back side. I'm using a T25. It could be a T30, but T25 turns them. So you just take those two out. They're not going to come out all the way. They're just going to get loose and they're going to sit in there. So the first thing, you can take this airbag off. Next step after that, you take the battery off because you don't want this airbag blowing up in your face. And after you get those two torques loosened, one of them actually came out, the other one's just sitting back there. So you just pull this airbag off, it kind of just pops off. And what do you got? Wires. So you unplug all this stuff. Usually it doesn't have this much stuff back here because this one has the controls for the radio and such. So you just unplug everything back here. Now this here, this is for the horn, right? So how you take this out, because you don't want to break it or else it'll never work again, is you just grab it, you twist it, and it pops right out. And it's got a little spring in there. And how you put it back in is you just put it in there and you twist it a little bit and it grabs onto this little thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug all this stuff right now. It's like when the airbag is off and these are unplugged. So next thing is you take this nut off. This is at 13/16 is what I saw it to be. I guess that's a 21 millimeter. And you take this off. The next thing you're gonna need to do is take this steering wheel off. Now a lot of people like to manhandle the steering wheels and just pull it back and forth and pull it back and forth. But sometimes you might break your steering column. I mean, sometimes you don't, but sometimes you do. So I don't like to do that. I'll use a steering wheel puller and you just thread it in here. So I'm gonna put that on right now and show you what it looks like. Okay, this is a steering wheel puller. The thing is on, so you just thread it in those two little slots. You put the big shaft on the big shaft and you just turn it. I can't really do it holding the camera, but you just turn it and the steering wheel will pop right off. And then we'll get to the next step. Check it out, it popped off. And you just pull it out. Now, when you're pulling these out, make sure you know where all these wires go, because this steering wheel turns all the time, and if you put wires back the wrong way, you're going to crimp one of these wires and something's not going to work anymore, man. And you know, that's, I've done that before and that's not really all that good. So you make sure you know where those wires feed through everything, and you'll see them over here too. These are the wires to the clock spring. So the next thing that you're going to want to do after you get the steering wheel off is you go in this clock spring and you see this little C-clamp right here. So you get those little C-clamp pliers, or if you don't have those, you can use needle nose pliers and some kind of picks or something, anything that you can get to get that clip off. And then this clock spring is going to slide right out. Okay, so I've got, these are the pliers I'm talking about. Will this thing focus? I've got that little snap ring out. And once you got that out, this will just pull right off. I like to be careful with stuff, man. But and try not to turn this clock spring. It turns. Just leave it in the position that it is in. I think I'm gonna need to pry this with a screwdriver. I'm gonna need to do something here, because there's wires back here and they're kind of catching. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of something to get this thing off. So we'll be on to the next step once I get this off. Okay, that didn't take long. It was just a little bit stuck, so I just had to give it a little tug. Next thing is, there's a couple of little pieces back here. There's this little, where you at? There's this little ring. It pulls right out. It's kind of like a wavy ring. And after that ring comes the hard part. And it's not really all that hard, but it is hard. And you need a special tool. I'll tell you, the strongest man in the universe can't do this by himself. What you have to do is, there's another ring here. And you gotta pop this little ring out. But first, you gotta push this locking plate down into the column so that you can get this. Now, I've done different things. I've hit them with hammers and I ended up breaking the steering column. I've done all types of different things until I just got this $10 tool that it just threads right onto here, and you just turn it and it pushes the clock spring down. Now, when the clock spring is down, you're going to want to pull this little tab out with, you know, little picks and whatever you got. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, that ring is pretty tricky to get off, but I got it off. It's sitting right here. It was sitting back there. You just push this thing down, you pluck the ring out. Now, what I did was I got a pick and I picked it out, and then I got a little screwdriver and I just held it back. You'll see what I'm talking about. And then you can pick the other side and it'll pop out. So once you do that, you unthread this thing and it'll make this come back, and then you'll just be able to pull it off real nice and easy, so that you can get to your turn signal switch, which is right back here. Now, this clock spring, make sure you know where it's at, so that when you put it back, you'll put it back in the right place. So it's lined up, this peg is lined up with this one, which is right here. So I'll be able to put it back in the right place. Because there's nothing worse than taking something apart and not really remembering how it goes back. So that's called a locking plate. And then there's this behind it. Well, I really should take that off all in one piece, right? I'm going to put this back on. Oh, okay, so here you go. The locking plate goes in only one way because of this circle. And you take them both out at the same time. And then behind all that is the turn signal switch. So what you need to do to get this turn signal switch out is there should be 3 screws, or they could be Torx. They are Torx. There's one here. There's one up here where you got to turn it this way to get it on there. And then there's one on the bottom that you can get to. And once you got those out, I'm thinking that you're going to need to take this screw out afterwards so that you could take this off. And then you can pull this old turn signal switch out. And behind there is what we're looking for. I took those 3 Torx out, like I said, but there was a plate that sits right here, and it goes on to here, and there were 2 screws in it, and I had to take the plate off to get this thing out. And then you just kind of tug on it. There's wires right here. These are all the wires for it, and it's connected to it. So you just give it a little tug, it'll pull them, because these wires go all the way down the steering column. So you just give it a little pull, slow pull, and then you just kind of get it out of your way. And that should be good enough, because this is what we're trying to get to. This Torx right here. So I'm going to have to take this off first. It's just a little clip, needle nose pliers, and you'll be able to just pull that right off. And then when you take this Torx out, you turn the key on. You take the Torx out, you turn the key on, and this cylinder will just pull right out. So I'm going to show you that in a second once I get this little thing off here. And that little thing just came out. It's just like a little, where is it? Here it is. It's just like a little thing that plugs in there. So you just grab it and you just pull it out. And this is exactly what we're looking for. I don't know if you can see that, but as I turn this, that little white wire is broken. And that's what we're always looking for on the Chevys, the Buicks, the Oldsmobiles, everything with this pass key system. See how the wire is moving around? That wire is broken. So replacing it, or in this case, this wire is not broken too far off of the cylinder. You wouldn't even really have to buy a new cylinder. I'm putting a new cylinder in this one because this is a customer's car. And I could probably use it anyway. So that Torx is loose. I don't know if it's going to work. But you turn the key and you pull it. No, it's not going to come out yet. I got to take this Torx out all the way. Okay, Torx is out all the way. You turn the key. I don't even know if you have to turn the key. You don't even have to turn the key. You can just pull this thing right out. Once you get that Torx out, you pull it right out. You can see that this wire is broken. Hello. And this goes all the way to the bottom. The wire for this ignition lock cylinder. It goes all the way down to the bottom, and there's a connector there. And what you're going to want to do is, you're going to
okay, here we go.
take this panel down. There's 3 screws or 8mm sockets. This is the connector you're looking for, right? Now, the connection that you're looking for is these 2 right in the bottom corner. So what you have to do to take this thing out is, there's an 8mm bolt right there. You take that bolt out, you take this whole thing off, and then there's clips that'll make each one of these individual racks slide out. So you're going to take this rack out. Well, I'll show you. Let me take this out, and we'll go to the next step. I'll show you how to do it. Here we go. I got the thing out. That's a 7mm bolt. That bolt, you loosen the bolt and then you just pull it off. Now, once you go underneath here, here's the 2 wires we're looking for. This has been replaced before. This is not the OEM colors. So what you do is, there's a little clip. See that little clip right in the middle? This is so hard to do with the camera in my hand, and there's that little clip right there. So you put a little screwdriver inside, right where the clip is, and you just pry it, and that should open it up. Let me do that real fast. I'm having a hard time with this camera. I just put it here, and you just pry it. I know you didn't quite catch that, but there's that little clip right there. You just stick a screwdriver in there, pry it a little bit, and it slides forwards out. And then what you're going to want to do, because your new ignition lock cylinder is going to come with this wire, and it's going to come with these 2 connectors. So you're going to want to push those 2 connectors out so that you can put your new one in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. String to this when you tie a string to this when you push it back, because you're not going to be able to thread that back perfectly. So when you take the old one out, tie a string to it first, and then take it out, and then you can tie the string to this one and put it in. Now, something that I like to do is I like to wrap electrical tape around all those wires, because they're really thin wires. I don't even know why they still make them that way, but they're really terrible, horrible, really thin, nasty wires, and they break really easily. So, you know, now all I have to do is go get a key made, whoops, with this template that they gave me with the lock cylinder. Now, the way that you do this is as follows. There's 15 different keys for these Buicks. So what you do is you get a multimeter, any multimeter that has ohms, you turn it on ohms, and you put the leads on either side of that little the little chip. It's not really a chip, it's a resistor. So you're just reading resistance, and that'll tell you which key you have to get, because Ace Hardware makes these keys for about $40. I can't do this with the camera on, but this key is reading 680 ohms, and I have a chart here. Here's the chart of which number key. So you can go to Ace Hardware and you can get your key made just by giving them a number. Here's the chart. 681 ohms is number 3. So I'm going to need a number 3 key. You go to, you just tell them, and these are the different ohms. So whichever one you got, that's what key you need when you go to Ace Hardware. And you just turn it on ohms. You put the leads on either side of this. Actually, this might work like this. No, still not working. But I did it before with the camera off, and it read 680, so I know I need a number 3 key. And that's how you get your key made. And you use your little templates. You get your key made, so you don't have to do a reset. You don't have to wait 15 minutes or 45 minutes or however long the reset's going to take you. And you're good and golden. You put everything back together, and that's it. Thanks a lot.